Good day, everyone. We are the Group 1. We will be reporting about the human resource in the Philippines with the subtopics of HR Pinoy style, human resource management in Southeast Asia's local government, and human resource management practices in the Philippines. The presenters are the members of the Group 1, Leah Abaa, Angelito Abao, Renee Mae Acabal, Angelica Adamil, Monique Agsoy, Floramie Agustin, Lodel Agapito Alfanta, Kieth Alvarez, and I'm Royce Arellano.
Good day everyone, my name is Leah Abaa from Group 1 and I was assigned to discuss to you the HR Pinoy style. So first, the introduction, the analytical framework for HR in the Philippines, and the economic political context. So for introduction, what is HR Pinoy style? The style by which human resource practices are devised and implemented in the Philippines is easy, identifiable, and distinctively Pinoy or Filipino. Within the bonds of economic political setting, Pinoy human resource management is based on the intricate system of indigenous core values which emphasize social acceptance. The purpose of this topic is first to identify and describe the essence of human resource management practices in the Philippines, and to highlight the enduring and distinguishing features of Pinoy HRM and its determining circumstances. For analytical framework, the analytical framework utilizes in doings includes three determining forces. First, the substantial culture influence on Pinoy HRM through the prevalence and indigenous core values. These values remain central to how modern Filipinos think, believe, feel, and act. Second, the specific economic political situation in the Philippines is examined as the restricting context to Pinoy HRM. And third, the forces of globalization, not least in the form of multinational corporations operating in the country, are highlighted. The enduring resilience of Pinoy HRM is indicated by demonstrating to what extent foreign multinational in the Philippines have adjusted their HRM. So the Pinoy HRM have the subtopic of economic political context, culture, and globalization. But I will only discuss to you the economic political context. So, for economic political context, in the Philippines, the practice of human resource management is governed by a very elaborate legal framework. A number of regulations and laws were promulgated as early as 1950s. For example, the Minimum Wage Law of 1951, the Industrial Peace Act of 1953, and the Medical and Dental Treatment Act in 1954. And in the 1973 Constitution of the Philippines stated as follows: the state shall afford protection to labor, promote for full employment, ensure equal work opportunities regardless of sex, race, or creed, and regulate the relationship between workers and employees. The state shall assure the rights of workers to self-organization, collective bargaining, security of tenure, and just and humane condition of work. The state may provide a compulsory habitation. But currently, there are extensive laws on many issues. Examples are rights with regard to rest, working hours and holidays, minimum wages, hours and conditions of work, meal and rest periods, hours of work for hospitals and clinic personnel, night shift differential pay, overtime, weekly rest period, benefits and services, termination of employment, labor relationship, labor unions, collective bargaining, and industrial health and safety. So, that's all the political economic context, and the next topic will be discussed by the next supporter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmates. Angelito Abao from Group 1. I'll be discussing about culture and Pinoy HRM in the Philippines. Allow me to proceed. Philippine culture, these are the combination of traditions, of the influence on the native people, and the culture that have once colonized Philippines. We have different culture coexisted and intermingled in the Philippines. The Filipino, the Hispanic, the American, and Chinese. We have a core values according to Hukano studies. Filipino values make up an intricate of system based on the concept of asal. ASA referring to the standard for ideal conduct that is considered altogether good, desirable, moral, ethical, beautiful, and true. We have core element of ASAL, the kapwa relational standard, the damdamin emotional standard, and dangal moral standard. To observe the kapwa standard properly, the norm of pakikisama and pakikiramay should be followed. Next is damdamin. Other norms of damdamin are amor proprio and delicadeza, generally Spanish terms accepted as part of the Filipino vocabulary. When we see amor proprio, these are actually ego defensiveness, the dignity of one person and personal pride. So to damage another person, amor proprio is to invite conflict and even violence. Next is delicadeza. Person who do not observe delicadeza are said to have makambal na muka, walang hiya, at palat sibuyas. Dangal, which pertain to social dignity and integrity. Another norms associated with dangal is utang na loob. Usually, the concept of the Filipino of utang na loob is feels obligated to return a favor or help given to him. Pinoy evolution. So in 1950s, human behavior in organization was neglected issue because the company focused on work simplification and methods improvement. In 1970s, personnel management still rated low in the priorities of organization, often only operating as subunit of the finance or manufacturing department. Lately, many companies have been to reassess their corporate philosophy in favor of regarding people not as loss but as investment and asset, professing a belief in human resource. And that's all my report. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Renee Mae Acabal, and let us explore how globalization affects the business firms and their operations. Globalization symbolizes free flow of technology and human resources across national boundaries, presenting an ever-changing and competitive business environment. It is a process that is drawing people together from all nations of the world into a single community linked by the vast network of communication technologies. There are two types of foreign business influences. First is the Japanese business firms. In a pioneering study of Japanese management style, found that Filipino employees of Japanese subsidiaries express a limited organizational commitment, unlike the sense of corporate unity prevalent among Japanese workers. Despite evidence of good team spirit, the Filipino insisted that having a good job did not mean being involved in the company. Japanese collectivism is an impersonal and abstract sense of cohesion, easily aligned with formal social structures, by which the family, the corporation, and the nation are unified. In contrast, Filipino collectivism is more particular rather than universal in orientation, delineating the boundaries between the in-group and the out-groups within the organizations. Second is the human resource management practices found in Western multinationals. One example of this is shown in the experience of Nestle Philippines Incorporated. Nestle is a giant organization with operations in over 60 countries, spread over 5 continents, employing more than 200,000 people and operating 400 factories worldwide. The integration of Filipino core values into the Human Resource Development Program has led to Nestle Philippines being the first rank in terms of growth and third in terms of overall performance within the Nestle Asia-Pacific region. With the related experiences of Japanese and Western multinational organizations in the Philippines give evidence that the Filipino core value system is a strong influence which leads to the adaptation of foreign human resource management practices.
The Human Resource Management in Southern Asia's Local Government Case Study in Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. The HRM is a crucial pillar in the core of the most nation development plan and boasting growth icon for any country's economic development. HRM personnel are expected to provide valuable input into the decision regarding staff management and core objectives of governmental entity. The objective of this study is to analyze some of the positive and negative experience of the human resource management, specifically recruitment and selection practices in Southern Asia's local government. The research is based on descriptive analysis and the data taken from secondary sources from different academic literature. This research is using the case study approach to review the international experience application of the HRM at the local government in Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, in order to set recommendations that can be applied in local government in Egypt. The central government in Indonesia is handling the management, training, and development of employees at the local government. It was mentioned that coordination between the central and local government was poor with regard to issues related to the local government employee due to the fact that central government seniors are in higher position on the organization than the local government executive. We have three central government administration in recruitment and selection. These compose of three. First is the State Civil Service Administration Agency. Second, the National Institute of Public Administration. And the third is the Ministry of the Empowerment of State. These three central administration bodies are responsible for designing local government administration structure. These units are also involved with public administration research to help with the reform process and keeping a database of the public servant. There are two kinds of recruitment in Indonesia, the first-time recruitment and the recruitment for a structural position. The first-time recruitment, this means when someone did not work as public servant before and is being recruited. The second is the recruitment of structural position. This is to fill the vacant position by the public servant. Last is the comparison of weak and proper local government practices in Philippines and Thailand. The weak local government HR practices in Philippines. The local chief executive has the right to recruit and select staff without referring to the Civil Service Commission, as long as the duration of these temporary employees does not exceed 6 months. Local chief executive became very powerful and has abused his power to his benefit in absence of weak central government. The decision for recruitment and selection were usually politicized rather than the base objective criteria. The recruitment of non-regular staff is also done by the mayor for the political affiliation. Nepotism and favoritism were moving factor in recruitment and selection process. While in Thailand, recruitment and selection of politicized based on connection of the politician with a mayor who appoints their relative or friends in return for more benefits and budget. The mayor was given a full authority and right to rotate or transfer people without returning back to the central government, which affected employees' motivation negatively. Both are characterized by unfair recruitment and selection practices. While the proper local government HR practices in Philippines is that staff recruitment was based on criteria that assess the candidate's educational background, previous work experience, achievements, and personality traits and potential development. The board member have to fill a personal form and assess applicant to become on some criteria. Both the mayor and personnel director encourage staff motivation, tool, and development. While in Thailand, applicants who only pass the exam are one selected, which means selection is merit-based. While the existing staff who would like to be promoted were also offered the opportunity to apply in advertised vacant position at the local government. The mayor gained the confidence of politicians and the central government for his reputation in his proper management style and his accomplishment of most proposed projects.
Case 1. Negative Experience, CTA in Philippines. Background: CTA is the capital city of one of the 4 provinces in Bicol region. of the Philippines, and its major industry is rice and root crop agriculture. While half of the city's land is used as agricultural land, population-wise, a number of residents are employed in the service and trading sectors around the city center. Around 550 regular staff works at the city council. Problem: Ishii, in his study, revealed the following problems. Through further interviews during his study, it became evident that the compliance of HR-related rule at CTA was actually superficial. The Personnel Selection Board was formed to supervise all the recruitment procedures for the regular staff, which never happened, even in the actual selection judgment, but was limited only to signing the form prepared by the Chief Executive Office. It was well known by the personnel officers that the best applicant was not always hired, even if the applicant meets the required qualification, as the decision was always based on political intentions rather than objective criteria. In addition to the 550 plantilla staff, the City Hall hired so many or countless number of job orders or short-term employees with no job to do just for political reasons. Job orders served in the hall for a short term with a limited amount of money and were traditionally hired by the mayor because of political reasons. Hiring of personnel was not on a demand basis but for political means. In this way, embedded nepotism in recruitment and selection was observed in the city. Tapales, Padilla, and Joaquin's 1998 also confirmed the same corrupted HR practices in their academic contribution. In the case of LGUs that do not have formal classification and pay plans, jobs were filled depending upon the needs of the local public service, but more often through the discretion of the local chief executives or local councils. Conclusion and recommendation. Though Civil Service Commission has set clear guidelines on nepotism, it is said that there are still violations made by the local chiefs, especially in the LGU, and it will remain unsolved not unless whistleblowers are brave enough to raise complaints in civil service. It is a painful reality that Padrino system will always be a prevailing issue in every government agency, particularly in the local government unit, where the head is the local chief or mayor. That's why, if we observe in different LGUs, there are thousands of job orders because the mayor has to accommodate its constituents, especially those who have voted in favor of him or her during election. It is hard to establish that there is bias in appointments since local chiefs as appointing authority are given wide latitude of discretionary power, and as long as the applicant meets the minimum qualification standards. That's why it is not ideal to place an administrator who possesses strong political will in an organization where its purpose is to profit, because there's a big tendency that Padrino system may apply and the quality of work may compromise. In order to eliminate Padrino system, there should be amendments on the guidelines so that objectivity in hiring and selection in the government will be observed. Case number 2. Positive experience, City B in Philippines. Background: City B is one of the oldest cities in the Philippines, established by Spain in the late 16th century. It is also the center of trade, education, and culture. Nonetheless, the majority of its land is still used for agriculture, apart from the central area of the city center, where shopping malls, bus terminals, and offices have been built. The city council is headed by a renowned mayor and consists of 497 regular staffs and 488 non-regular staffs. In City B, the national regulations of HRM were rigidly implemented. Recruitment procedures were followed by the Personnel Selection Board, which was organized by the administrators, personnel department, head, and 2 locally assembly members, a representative of the Employees Association, and a chairman of the city's employee empowerment program called Productivity Improvement Program or PIP. Many employees from City B stated that their recruitment and selection were completely fair and followed the proper recruitment procedures. The personnel office of the city had developed a document called Rating Sheet of Applicant, which was a checklist using a 5-point scale that include the following sections: education and training, work performance, experience and outstanding achievements, psychosocial attitudes and personal traits, potential. That document was filled out by the Personnel Selection Board members in the selection interview, in which situational and behavioral questions were asked to the recruited candidates. The board members have standardized judgment criteria, and the applicants were objectively compared. The decision was made by the board and passed to the mayor for his approval. The city council had been taking HRM issues quite seriously for the past decade under the mayor's initiative. The PIP mentioned above was the starting point for the city council to give more attention to the HR issues. The program was introduced, and according to the book written by the mayor, to get officials away from the mindset of a traditional mode of public service with a belief that with such crucial change it will help make the city hall more efficient. The aptitude tests were implemented to put the right people in the right places. This program was later taken over by a customer orientation program that received an international donor support. Encouraged by the mayor, the head of the personnel department has been proposing inventive HR practices, not just limited to recruitment and selection, seeking increased motivation of the personnel and for work efficiencies. These include employee satisfaction survey as well as the staff's evaluation of the mayor and management officers. As shown above, in CTB, where the significance of HRM was much emphasized by the chief executive, the recruitment and selection practices were respected nationally and even developed with their own capacity. Conclusion and recommendation. Despite of the reports of biased procedures of hiring and selection of personnel happening in some LGUs, there are still some LGUs that are following the right process, but it is hard to centralize the hiring of the employees and be detailed to different LGUs as each municipality has its own jurisdiction. That's why Civil Service Commission must amend some of the guidelines in the ora-ora so that the appointing authority will not abuse its power. There will be objectivity and the standard of service in the government will be uplifted by selecting the right person based on better qualifications.
In CTC, located in Songkhla province in the southern part of Thailand, in order for you to keep your job or position, you have to be very loyal and connected to the mayor. Because of this, the employees are not motivated to do their job. Biases are also present under his management. For instance, recruitment of relatives of the provincial politicians to a certain position in the city instead of giving the position to someone who has the knowledge or information on how to handle that certain position. In return for this favor, the mayor received budget benefits. Another example would be the projects under or assigned to the mayor are not implemented. In this case, the HRM is completely dominated by the mayor, who performs and conducts unfair practices of civil services management which affected badly the motivation of the civil service employees. Compared to the experiences of CTC, CTD, which is located in the Nakhon Phanom province in the central region of Thailand, is managed and handled by a trusted and good mayor who knows how to handle his employees and projects well. The mayor is known for his proper management. Recruitment and selection of applicants for a certain position in the city were well handled and are based on merit and subject to specific criteria made by the HR administrators. It was not biased, unlike CTC. If ever there are vacant positions, the public could be notified and this will be posted in the city office. Projects assigned to CTD were accomplished with the mayor's help. In this case, the mayor in CTD managed to establish a transparent system that is supported by the external parties and is good at managing his employees.
Emerging trends. Human resources is all about making sure that the companies and employees have a harmonious working relationship. Thanks to technology, human resources teams have gone a long way in revolutionizing the way they work today. Technology has also helped HR teams create various initiatives that positively impact employee engagement, work satisfaction, and recruitment. What's the current state of human resources in the Philippines? Relatively, small funding hampers HR teams' growth potential and expansion efforts. As you can see in the pie chart, most HR teams in the Philippines typically have 1 to 5 members. Most HR teams in the Philippines are very small, typically with less than 5 human resource specialists per company. Generally, bigger companies with larger budget have the opportunity to support HR team expansion and growth. How about the HR department budget? Per the pie chart, although a bigger percentage of HR professionals stated that they are given enough financial support by their companies, there are still 42% of respondents who believe that they are not funded adequately for their HR-related pursuits. Incidentally, many HR professionals felt that they can't support their own growth because of relatively small funding. This tells us that human resources teams' growth are heavily dependent on financial support they get from their respective companies. What HR task takes up the most time in your business operations? Per the bar chart, HR professionals admit that labor relations and recruitment processes take up the most of their time. Though, lots of recruiters still manually find, filter, and pick the right candidate for any available role. But many human resources teams successfully use technology-based platforms such as online job boards and social media to find talent. However, the rest of the recruitment process still requires grunt work that eats up a lot of their productive time. HR professionals complain about manual work, yet are still very happy of what they do. It's a fact that they still manually process internal labor concerns and recruiting potential hires. How would you rather handle HR processes? Per the chart, 9 out of 10 HR professionals prefer to use automated solution for HR and payroll processes. Companies have invested in technology-enabled, enterprise-grade hardware solutions that aid in managing employees and to simplify internal processes. An overwhelming 80% surveyed human resources professionals stated that their company uses biometrics to manage employees' attendance records. 20% of respondents said that they still use time cards and logbooks to manage their employees' attendance records. HR teams are already looking at software solutions to simplify HR and payroll processes. Majority of human resource professionals have already migrated towards the use of technology in HR and payroll processes. This user-friendly approach to HR and payroll processes give timely, precise, and efficient control and management of various HR and payroll processes across the board.
Now we will be discussing success in social media recruitment and employer branding. What is social recruiting? As defined, it refers to the process of recruiting candidates through social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and other websites, including online forums, job boards, and blogs. When done well, social recruiting enables organizations to reach passive candidates, gather more referrals, target desired candidates, showcase the organizational culture, and save money. If you're going to be a success at social recruiting, you need to utilize your time spent on social media in an effective and productive way. The question is, how? So here are the 6 social media metrics that recruiters should use to be successful. First, profile views. This is a great way to see how popular your profile is as a result of the way you have optimized your profile, the posts you have shared, or how you have been engaging in online discussions. Second, connections and followers. Creating and maintaining an engaged and relevant audience is key if you are to use social media to boost your recruiting efforts, as your connections are likely to make up a large percentage of those who see and engage with your post. Third, mentions. These are often indicative of a strong personal brand, as users will likely tag you into a post because it's of interest to you, or they have tagged you in as a recommendation to potential candidate or client. Fourth, click-through rate, a metric that refers to how often users click on the links shared in your post, compared with the number of impressions they have earned. Fifth, impressions, refers to the number of times that your content has been displayed on users' feeds. Sixth, LinkedIn endorsement and recommendations. This will positively boost your position in LinkedIn search when candidates or clients are searching for recruiters with related skills. So the more endorsements you have for core competencies, the more visible you will be. Now let's talk about employer branding. It is the process of managing and influencing your reputation as an employer among job seekers, employees, and key stakeholders. It encompasses everything you do to position your organization as an employer of choice. Remember, your employer brand is your organization's reputation as an employer. In simpler terms, it's what job seekers and employees really think of you,
It's what they tell their friends and family when you are not around. Though it may not be tangible, your employer brand is an asset that requires constant cultivation. You maybe want to ask, how to build an employer brand? First, conduct an employer brand audit. Examine everything that you are saying to candidates and employees that could impact their perception of the company and understand how they really think about the company. Second, craft your employee value proposition or the EVP. It is the people deal that exists between an organization, its employees, and the talent it's looking to recruit. It answers the questions what the individual employer or candidate can expect of the company and what the company expects of the individual employer or candidate. Lastly, implement your employer branding strategy. At this point, you should be ready to take your message to the masses and promote your employer brand through job descriptions, career page, online reviews, and candidate experience. Now, may I turn over you to the next reporter?
The COVID 19 health crisis is an unforeseen event that slammed businesses and workers alike. In fact, nobody was prepared, not even big companies. This disastrous event has caused hardship on everyone's daily life, including mobility, food supplies, trade, tourism, travel, and financial markets. In the Philippines, to reduce the impact of COVID-19 outbreak on businesses, workers, customers, and general stakeholders, HR or human resource leaders and employers have made tremendous efforts to mitigate the circumstances. Various companies have updated their risk management plans to address the specific exposure, identified sources of exposure, and means of transmission. Employers have taken careful steps to identify risk levels in workplace and to determine the control measures necessary to implement. We surveyed, or there was a survey of an association on what other concrete organizational practices they have put in place. One of these are the early release of the full month wages for the month of March. This is when the pandemic was starting. Second is the online delivery instruction to professional subjects. Third, the full wages regardless of employment status. Full pay during enhanced community quarantine for those who are unable to work from home. There was also hygiene kits such as masks, alcohol, and vitamins provided work from home allowance that covers electricity and internet, and advanced crediting of salary for the next pay period. Provided individualized tent with lockers as accommodations to employees in the worksite. They also gave additional medical assistance, 50 kilograms of rice and cash assistance. They provided regular updates that are accurate and how it made an impact in the organization. Executive levels voluntarily rolled back pay to help alleviate business conditions and assist in the needs of the workforce. Provided also individual rest areas in the workplace with air conditioned facilities. Many companies provided clear directions, confidence, and assured employees by sending a strong message that overall health and well being is deemed more important than profit. To keep business continuity and make operations work, virtual meetings are being maximized. This is also a way of providing continuous engagement among employees. Reflecting on these practices, we can get a glimpse that no matter how big or small an organization is, showing the true meaning of malasakit, care and concern for the other, and bayanihan, a fundamental aspect of Filipino culture with an aim to work together to achieve a common goal in times of crisis is inherent among Filipinos. And that wraps up our topic of Group 1, the human resource in the Philippines, specifically the HR Pinoy style, the human resource management in Southeast Asia's local government, the human resource management practices in the Philippines. Thank you very much for watching.